Welcome back, everyone, to A Book and a Bottle. I am really excited about this week's episode because I am featuring this amazing guest, my friend, Joe Winland. He is the owner of Heaven and Ale, which I think is best described, Joe, as a growler retail store and craft beer tasting room.
That's exactly right.
Right. He's fairly new here in Chattanooga. When did you open?
We opened July 3rd of last year, so we're getting ready to
my
celebrate
gosh.
our one-year anniversary.
Another excuse to celebrate. Well, Dan and I, my husband, we've started coming in regularly on Friday. Sometimes even my 85-year-old mother comes with us, and we taste a flight of beer, pick out what we want for the weekend, and then take a growler home. I love Heaven and Ale. So I wanted, with Father's Day coming up, to feature a book that has some strong male characters in it, and then I thought the perfect pairing for Father's Day would be beer. But that's really not my area of expertise, although I do have a newfound passion for it. So I thought I would turn the discussion of beer over to Joe. So the book that I've chosen this week is Love is a Canoe by Ben Schrank. He's actually a publisher, president of an imprint of Penguin, Random House, I think it's Razorbill. And Love is a Canoe is about a marriage therapist. Is he a therapist?
Mm-hmm.
Who's written a book called Marriage is a Canoe. But he wrote it 50 years ago. And this self-help book about relationships and marriage is about to celebrate its 50th anniversary. So this New York editor has this idea to hold a contest, and the winning couple will be able to go and spend some private time with Peter Herman, the author of this book, and talk about love and relationships. The only problem is, since Peter published the first edition, he's had a lot of changes and thought about the advice that he gave in the first edition, and he's a new widow. So he's really rethinking everything that he put out there in that first book. And then into this walks Emily and Eli, this Brooklyn couple, that everything from the outside looks really perfect. And the three of them spend a weekend together, and it is a funny and smart novel that really takes a poignant look at relationships and marriage and why we need to be good to one another. So anyway, it does have some great male characters in the book, and so I want Joe now to talk about his pairings for Love is a Canoe.
Hey everybody! I thought since the book was largely about marriage and relationships, that it would be a lot of fun to talk about an emerging concept that's kind of growing on the craft beer market. That's beer cocktails. A beer cocktail is basically taking two styles of beer and mixing them together to create a brand new flavor. And I had a couple in mind that you can probably find in your market and that make great beer cocktails. The first one is a beer that we call at Heaven and Ale Shake Your Juju. Shake Your Juju is a combination of the Boulder Brewing Company's Shake Chocolate Porter and the Left Hand Brewing Company's Good Juju, which is a ginger pale ale. The idea of chocolate and ginger going together works in any other facet, so it might as well work with beer. When you're mixing these two beers, I recommend pouring about 70% of your glass full of the Left Hand Good Juju, the ginger beer, and then top it off with the very sweet, rich, chocolatey Boulder Shake Chocolate Porter. The two go wonderfully together, and it makes an unbelievably refreshing, crisp, bright, darker beer that infuses the flavors of fresh ginger root and cocoa nibs.
I never thought about this, mixing two beers together for
Yep.
a beer cocktail.
Yeah.
I love that. A whole new drink for me to enjoy.
Sometimes when we're slow or just wanting to have fun, we'll just start experimenting.
How do you know what to mix? Do you just sense of what's going to pair well?
Yeah, you basically trust your palate. Think about two flavors that generally go together, and then try mixing them in a beer. And then you can just experiment with your ratios until you've come up with a flavor that suits your palate just right. The Boulder Shake Chocolate Porter is a wonderfully rich and chocolatey beer that really you could mix with any fruit beer that accompanies chocolate really well. Maybe a strawberry lager or a strawberry wheat beer, maybe a raspberry beer. but anything that has a punchy fruit flavor that mixes well with chocolate would go great.
So that raspberry Hefeweizen that I've been loving this year, Schlafly's.
Schlafly's raspberry Hefeweizen.
I could mix that with a...
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can't stress enough how rich and chocolatey that Boulder Shake is, so make sure that the fruit beer is dominating the ratio. Probably 70 to 80% of your glass should be full of the fruit beer, and then just top it off with the Boulder Shake chocolate porter, and you've got a wonderful beer cocktail.
Ooh, okay. I know what Dan's getting for Father's Day. Hey, I want to point out that Joe also not only is this fabulous beer connoisseur, owner of one of my favorite hangouts in Chattanooga, but also has his master's in literary studies. I mean, could there be a more perfect man? So hopefully we'll get him back on A Book and a Bottle.